I've spent a good amount of time with Monster Hunter Wilds over the past week. Over 30 hours, in fact. And let me start off with this. I get it now. I get the appeal of Monster Hunter. I see why people have hundreds and thousands of hours into this franchise. But I do still have my gripes with this game. We've got to start with this campaign. It's like a Kojima-produced Monster Hunter. I get it. Big campaigns help shift copies now, and there's moments in this campaign that are great, narrative-wise, character-wise, and the big bombastic moments. But, oh boy, is it rough. It's not to say that anyone comes to Monster Hunter for its campaign, but it was actually a blocker of my enjoyment at times. This campaign is there to help pace the onboarding of gear, features, cosmetics, tools, characters, regions, difficulty, etc. But the structure of it is so bad, it interrupts the flow. I've got no problem with cutscenes and trying to tell a story, but in those first 5 hours, I am constantly interrupted from the one thing that I want to do in this game: hunt monsters. You could make the argument here that, yeah, you can skip it, but this is a feature of a game, it's got a lot of production value in there, and therefore it shouldn't just be a, oh, skip over it. There's still some good moments in here, some strong character moments, and when monsters are revealed for the first time, and the sense of scale that it provides before you're about to head into this big battle with them, it's really captivating. What are those? The Black Flame. What a sick name. The music and the level of production into these parts in particular is really good. The campaign acts as one long tutorial, and yeah, it is. It's a poorly paced one though, that because at times you spend such a long time between battles, you forget and lose track of the mechanics that the game is trying to teach you, because you can't actively practice them. Once the campaign is over though, this is when the game lets loose, and my enjoyment was dramatically improved, when the shackles are off, and it's hunt after hunt, and oh man is it a good time. Some people will just not enjoy this grind and the loop of a Monster Hunter game. It's not really as fancy as a typical looter shooter, for example. Sure, stats go up, you do some build crafting, but I think the skill and improvement here is how you master the dance. Because that's what I love about these encounters. They're like a dance with the monsters, weaving between their attacks, spinning up a blow as they charge at you to hit them with one of their own. The Monster Hunter games are so distinct in how you engage in the battles. Once you've pressed a button, animations are locked in. At the higher tiers, you can't just button mash or you just get hit. It's really about mastering your craft, building up those afflictions, preparing your traps and your tools, adapting to the environment. That's why this game won't work for some people. It's not the diverse action in a Horizon game. It's not the swiftness of a From Software fight. It's very unique in reading a monster, and its health, its actions, and preparing well for it. And right now, I'm really loving that. But it should be said is that I found this very easy, even as someone who is very new to the franchise, in that my entire time with the campaign, I've only failed one hunt, and that's because my gear was dramatically under-leveled to what it should have been for that time, that I shouldn't have even been fighting that monster for what my gear was at. But I think that's just because my looter brain kicked in and I was trying to conserve resources for later on. I have heard that the big battles are to come post-launch, and this is just the beginning, but yeah, there's not been a battle where I've regretted using my fire switch axe instead of an ice one, or not bringing a certain bomb or a trap or a potion. The systems for all that are there though, and they're very complex, but it's missing that for me. All I've left to do now is get myself from tier 7 to tier 8. There is an end game here, but I'm not sure it's one that requires much from the player right now in terms of being demanding. What has really bothered me though is for a game with such a heavy emphasis on cooperative play, just how poor and inept its social systems are. Server stability, hats off to them, it's been great for what has been a colossal launch, but man, the menus of it all, the functionality of it, if you wanted to play this game's campaign co-op, good luck, because it is terribly designed. Every main quest, you can't just roll in together, one person has to start it, do the investigation, aka traverse to the monster, a cutscene may then play out, and then once the hunt begins, you can send a flare off, and once in a link party, they can basically get an auto invite and join you. But they would have missed out on all the cutscenes and exposition, and what could have been a really great introduction to this big new monster. It's genuinely terrible. Post-campaign, co-op is fine, you can invite them to your instance, though I received a lot of crashes whenever I joined someone else's instance, but when I was on my own, I didn't really crash. You can start a quest and invite them immediately, and by the way, the best parts of this game are in the co-op. I lost track of time on so many occasions putting so many hours into this game co-op. It's one of those where you start at 2 PM, you boot up with a friend, you're like, okay, just a couple of hunts, the next minute is 8 PM, 6 hours have gone by, and you're like, how did that even happen? But it's just because it's so much fun, the loop is so good, and it's got that hooks of just one more. And that is where it's so good to play this game. It can be great to lock in with a friend, or just to kick back, catch up, and do 1 or 2 boss fights. I understand that, look, it's quite a complex co-op in that there is multiple scenarios in terms of how you can play co-op. Different instances, quests, hunts, investigations. There's a lot of intertwining systems, but for a game in 2025, it is really poorly done and executed. So convoluted, and just a shame that a game so fantastic in co-op is held back by the complications of its systems. Even with all that though, I really love playing this game, man. The wound system in particular is so damn satisfying. Opening up multiple wounds on a monster, and for me, with my switch axe, using the axe to take one wound out to charge the axe up, hitting some sword hits and then charging that meter up, and then breaking another wound with that charged up sword to do big elemental damage. It's huge, it's satisfying, it's great. I've seen conversations online about how Monster Hunter Wilds should have a health bar for its monsters. And to be honest with you, as a newcomer, I could not disagree more. That would lose so much of the joy of these hunts for me. The thrill of the hunt is knowing you're close, but not how close you are, relying on the indicators that the game gives you, such as the monster's heartbeat, the monster's movement, remarks from companions, and that's the joy of it, man. You remove all of that of a health bar and it becomes very generic. I love seeing monsters limp away, knowing they're retreating to the lair for one final defense. But I just can't buy into this idea of a health bar for monsters, it would ruin so much for me. I do think that this game feels good to play. When I say this is my first Monster Hunter, that's on a technicality as I had about 2 hours in Monster Hunter World, but even from those 2 hours, there is so many quality of life improvements here. The ability to swing your weapon in a specific direction, how your secrets can pick you off the ground if you've been knocked over and swipe you away from an incoming attack. I think the feedback feels good, how monsters can become ensnared in traps, how they react to your attacks. It plays really well. And I also like how monsters adapt in that if you're in a bigger party, I've noticed that they tend to do a lot more AoE attacks rather than singular focused attacks. The game has good reactivity. Of course, this is a Monster Hunter at the end of the day. A big aspect of that is watching monsters hash it out, and you'll be halfway through a battle and this guardian monster will appear out of nowhere and you watch these 2 titans have at it. It doesn't get old, and the animations are of such good quality that at times I genuinely felt bad for attacking some of these monsters that just can't escape your grasp. One thing I really adore is that gear chase. I love the looks of these armor sets, man, and there's so much customization in this game, it's incredible. Your appearance, your armor, the colour of it, your palico, your secret, your pop-up tents, and man, the armor as you go up the rarities, it just looks cooler and cooler. I modelled my armor around Thorn from Destiny 2, and yeah, I mean, look how cool it looks. And speaking of Destiny, as someone with a lot of hours into it, I love it when a raid ties into its loot in the aesthetics. The same applies here. Modelling armor with 4 different sets per monster, per rarity, looks really amazing and does such a good job of incentivizing that chase. Because you're running a monster so many times that you become a veteran at it, and each time you're getting hit less and you're attuning to that particular battle. The world of Monster Hunter is really interesting too. Biome diversity, the lore behind the guild, the tribes, and of course the actual designs of the monsters, which for a game with so many entries, to have this level of uniqueness is very impressive. I didn't care much for the overall story, nor the side missions, but I appreciated how even the side missions act as a vessel to help you engage into the deeper mechanics of item trading, upgrading your Palico's ability, farm resources, smelt items, refine items. There's so much depth to the systems here that it almost feels like an MMO. I also think what's really special is that those higher tier fights, they recapture final boss fights from raids and dungeons in MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV or World of Warcraft. But that's what makes Monster Hunter so unique, is it has that spectacle of it all, but it's how the world kind of evolves around you. The weather may change, the monsters fighting, defending the territory, running from other monsters, and it helps you just really immerse yourself into this landscape across several different biomes. And speaking of immersion, the food in this video game should be illegal, mate. It looks that good. I have never seen Scran, that's what we call food where I'm from, look this good in a game ever. Like, man, I'm glad I'm not dieting because that shit would have me starving. They got melted cheese looking better than real life here. So, as a newcomer, I am really enjoying my time in Monster Hunter Wilds, and it is massively enhanced whenever I do get to play co-op. Listen, I hate to be that guy, and I think it's often a ridiculous statement to say that it gets good after 10 hours, as if our time with games isn't precious, but I really do believe that here, that as you get past that 10-hour mark, the monsters get more ambitious and grand, the pursuit of the armor and weapons becomes more addicting, and once those shackles are off, and the world is yours to explore, hunt, and enjoy, that's where the real source of this game is. It's definitely newcomer friendly, and perhaps too strong in that aspect, because I did want to be tested a bit more than just a simple gear upgrade. For how deep its systems go, in this version, right here, right now, they're just not capitalized on. It's more of a promise of what's to come. I think that's okay, but it's more about whether you want to stick with it or not in 2025, where a big video game seems to release every single week. For me personally, I think I've become a casual fan of Monster Hunter now. I'm going to keep playing while the enjoyment's there, try out more weapons, refine my craft, and just keep hunting because the loop is so good, so addicting, and the RNG of trying to find specific parts to craft the armor that you want is actually not too bad. The clue is in the title here. It excels in what it promises. Monster hunting. You won't find a deeply engaging story here with rich characters, nor something that reinvents and redefines co-op PvE games. But what you will find is a fantastic soundtrack that heightens the spectacle of these bloody big cool monsters, that has a loop so addicting, so engaging, and has you invested in becoming the best hunter you can possibly be. I come away from Monster Hunter Wilds, and I understand it now. How hours can just go by, how good it feels to finally whittle a monster down and capture it or slay it completely, even the pure excitement of when the guild authorizes you to hunt. Monster Hunter Wilds is a great time, and it made me a fan of the franchise at last. So, what are you thinking of Monster Hunter Wilds so far? Are you new to the series? Are you a veteran? Have you even picked up the game? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd enjoy you leaving a like, and this is what I do here. I talk about video games that I like, enjoy, and I'm passionate about. So if you're after more of that, consider subscribing. All my socials are linked below. Otherwise, I hope you have a terrific day. Play games, get gains, and I'll catch you in the next one.